Alrighty. Okay. Let me go ahead and hope and pray everything's working, because I had it working earlier, but apparently my stream on something else decided to break, so I broke it. Yay, love it. But anyway, how is everybody doing today? How is everybody doing today as I fix everything that is going on? Just to throw over here. I throw Archives of Nethys up because I don't really have anything else to really like put here. I mean, we could just nope, could just do this. Do that, but then I have to fix it over there, so no, I think we'll just leave it like this for now. But how's everybody doing this fine Thursday? Yes, we're just hanging out today because I really don't have anything else really planned today. Mainly because I don't know what I'm doing. We beat the Convergence mod for Dark Souls. And I really wasn't planning on finishing it last stream, and it just so happened that I finished it last stream. So yeah, I don't know what we're doing today. Usually whenever I don't have anything that I really have planned, I kind of just start discussing about things that I like, which is usually ends up just being like tabletop role-playing games, which is something that I do enjoy playing. I don't think anyone's really online for me to kind of discuss that kind of thing today. But, I just realized that the can that I got out of my fridge is frozen. So that's fun. So, but yeah. I usually go into this rant. I end up going into this rant quite often. I don't know why I go into this rant, and it usually ends up happening when I just ramble. And I ramble sometimes quite a lot. So there is that kind of thing. But I don't know. It's that thing of like, I always discuss this. I don't know if anyone's real opinion is the same, and I don't think it is, because generally people probably play tabletop role-playing games differently than I do. But there's always this consensus that I look at editions of games, and I go through and I look at them. I think they're cool. And then I go look at something like, I hate to be negative, but I watch D&D 5th edition, and I think it's a useful thing, but I have this problem of that I don't think I like playing 5th edition. I think I like GMing 5th edition, but I don't think I like being a player in 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons. So I just don't know how to really, like, you know what? Let me go into this one. Then we'll go ahead and edit this. Dungeons and Dragons. I should just edit this. I'd rather just go ahead and state what this is, and it's just D&D discussion. Because that's what probably this is going to devolve into, is just me doing D&D discussion, so I'll go ahead and make it correct. So yeah. This is just something that I have the problem with. I don't know if really I should say that everybody has this problem, but if you've grown up with, not grown up, but if you've played other editions, D&D at 5th edition happens to just be the one that is more available. It's the most popular one that's going on right now, 5.5. I'm not 100% certain how I feel about 5.5 just yet, mainly because I haven't really played 5th edition or 5.5. I've played a little bit of it, but it just always gives me this weird feeling that, like, I don't want to, like, characters don't feel complete unless you're already at 3rd level. And I guess that's kind of my issue with with Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition, is that if you start at level 1, you already have an idea of what subclass you're going to go into. So there's no point in why aren't the subclasses all just available at 1st level instead of being available at 3rd level. I don't know why. Because 1 and 2 kind of feel like tutorial levels. When in older editions, level 1 and level 2 weren't really tutorial levels. Technically, if you want to get into semantics, many people would probably consider that in 3.5, level 1 and level 2, level 1 through 5 were effectively like tutorial levels. Sometimes up to even level 6. Because in Dungeons & Dragons 3.5, prestige classes were, like, the main way that your characters gained power. There was no incentive to continue staying in a specific class unless you're playing something like Cleric, Druid, Wizard, Sorcerer, or anything that had access to 9th level spells, because that's just how it functioned. But, I'm like trying to actually think that I want to actually make sure that I'm getting this right before I do anything else, before I say anything else. Because 3.5 was all of what 3.5 specifically was more about prestige classes giving you your power rather than playing let me rephrase that. 3.5, your character gained power via the magic items they obtained, plus the classes that they decided to be in. Mainly the classes, such as prestige classes, were the main way of how you gained more power. Mainly because if we go look at the fighter honestly I don't think had an actual dead level, but many classes had what's quote-unquote called dead levels. The rogue was one of them that has a dead level technically every other level. The cleric had pretty much 19 dead levels, unless you count spell slots being something that you would gain each level, but I don't. The druid was probably the only class that had something going for them every level, and then there was a few other classes that's just out of the main ones that I remember. But Pathfinder, not Pathfinder. I want to continue talking about Dungeons & Dragons 3.5. 3.5, I really wasn't in the culture of 3.5 that long. Because I really didn't start playing until, I want to say 2007. Or was it 2008? 2008 is probably when I started playing. And Pathfinder 1E. Core rulebook was released in 2009, so let me do some math real quick, because I gotta do some math real quick. No, it was 2009 when I 2008 to 2009 was when I kind of got into TTRPGs. I remember what happened. 2008, I got into... I know what happened. I got into the 4th edition, because that's when 4th edition had come out. 4th edition was already out. So... And I was a huge World of Warcraft player. So 4th edition was the one that kind of, like, interested me. And then I got into Pathfinder 1st edition, and I loved that one. I started playing that one, and I actually enjoyed that one a lot more than 4th edition because it felt like I had more freedom to play the character that I kind of wanted to. Although back then I was always just about the mechanics, and I've kind of turned into this character who's been, or this person who's been always reliant on mechanics. I have not really looked at it in the sense of like a story perspective. And the thing is that I have many character builds that, in my honest opinion, were probably shouldn't exist, only because of specific builds that come to mind, and specific ways that a character could technically be made. Because 5th edition, I would say that 5th edition probably does really well of help telling stories over mechanical benefit. The issue is that because Pathfinder 1st edition has, and 3.5 in a sense, have so many different have so many different skills, it makes it a lot harder to justify being effectively good at something. But in Pathfinder 1st edition, it made, or not good at something, it made it very hard to pretty much make yourself more versatile in Pathfinder 1st edition and 2nd and 3.5, because you really heavily wanted to specialize, because specialization is heavily rewarded in Pathfinder 1st edition, as well as, I want to say, 3.5. It's the same reason as to why classes, like, if you want to do a lot of damage in Pathfinder in 3.5, out of the player's handbook, your option was literally, if you wanted to do a lot of damage with spells, your option was to literally grab access to grab 3 levels of wizard and grab 3 levels of rogue, and then start going into the arcane trickster, because then you gained access to more sneak attack, but you also gained access to a lot of power in your spells, because you can now have a more effective, I think you could have a more effective way of sneak attacking with your spells. We will go ahead and pull up, not that one. Well, actually I need to do one on both anyway. So we'll go ahead and let me get the right one up. That one. And we'll go ahead and go to D20. We'll go to D20 SRD or 3.5 SRD, because I think that one had the prestige classes. Is it in classes? Prestige class. Yeah, Arcane Trickster. So you still get sneak attack, and then once you got access to 3rd level of this class, you get impromptu sneak attacker, which was effectively just which allowed you to effectively state one attack with a spell. One melee or ranged attack that must to be a sneak attack. Target can be no more than 30 feet in distance. So effectively allowing you to impromptu sneak attack. The prestige class does exist. It is still known as the same thing as the Arcane Trickster. I think it's just been slightly buffed, mainly because it now has a D6 hit die. But it's effectively still the same, except it's been changed to... there's tricky spells, which I'm not 100% certain what this does, but I think it just allows you to ignore one of the components. Yeah, allows you to ignore a somatic or verbal component as if using that. Yeah. So, some slight buffs. Arcane Trickster was how you got an additional 76 points of damage, and you effectively got access, like if you wanted to just do a 3-level dip in Rogue and then you would get access to 9th or 8th level spells, I want to say. I didn't even realize that there was a Decipher Script skill. Is there really a Decipher Script skill and I just never noticed it? Is this what the linguistics kind of turned into? You have 5 ranks or more in Decipher Script, you can have +2 use magic device involving scrolls. Wow. Did not know that. Skills? There are a lot more skills than I remember. Use rope was a skill. Tumble was a skill. Speak language and decipher script, I believe, and there's forgery. So Pathfinder did something that I don't know would be considered controversial nowadays. But during the time, I believe it was probably considered controversial because if we look at if we look at both of these, I gotta do something specific here. Hang on. Let me do this. Let me move that to over there. And then let me change this to the right option, which is that one. So this way we can actually see both of them at the same time. If we look at this, so I think I should go to D20 PFSRD instead. I think it'll be in a much better view than the others. So I can go to skills and we can have it in a little bit more of a view here, but okay. So skills that didn't really change were appraise, bluff, climb, craft, diplomacy, disable device, disguise, escape artist. I don't think fly is in. No, fly is not in. So I guess it was concentration. How did the fly spell work in 3.5? How did fly work? How did fly work? Fly. How did this work? So it just allowed you to fly without needing any. Only as much kindness as walking, so the subject can attack and cast spells. So it didn't. So you didn't need. So what happens when you got hit while flying? Anyway, so it seems that they did get rid of some. I did not know that. That was something that I did not realize, is that there was no fly skill in here. Handle animal. Again, we have handle animal. Oh, actually, it's gather information is actually in here as well. I didn't even realize that. Intimidate. Knowledge. We have knowledge. We have all the. I think the knowledge has all the same knowledge skills, so we really didn't lose any of the knowledge skills. Arcane engineering. Dungeoneering, geography, history, local, nature, nobility, religion, and planes. So this one's actually in alphabetical order, and this one's technically in alphabetical order, but it's also not in our alphabetical order at the same time. So yeah, it does the same thing. So those did not change. Apparently there were more synergies in 3.5 than there are in. There's no real synergy in Pathfinder First Edition, so maybe. So there's that. Listen is not a thing. Move silently is not a thing. We get linguistics, which is not in here. It's the combination of, I want to say, decipher script, forgery, and speak language. Perception is the combination of 3 other skills, which would be listen, spot, and search. As well as disable device encompasses open lock. Stealth, we get perception, perform. Diplomacy now also encompasses gather information. Acrobatics encompasses balance, jump, and tumble, I want to say. So yeah, effectively just reducing the amount of skills. Survival, I think survival does the exact same thing. I don't think there was anything added to survival from here. I could be wrong. Oh, I forgot hide as well for stealth. Stealth has hide and move silently. We're lumped into one. Heal's the same. Sense motive is, I think, the same. Yeah, sense motive is the same. We got sleight of hand, which I don't think encompassed anything else. Spellcraft, stealth, survival, swim, and use magic device. Oh, use rope was actually removed, and use rope was useful for doing things like tying knots and such. But I believe, I don't really know the reasoning for this. So I don't understand why use rope was kind of gotten rid of, but I assume the reason is that instead of having a skill associated with it, I think it's just based in the equipment section now. Adventuring gear. We'll just go look at rope and the grappling hook. Rope. Let's find the grappling hook real quick. Grappling hook. So the rope doesn't really give us much. It has a DC 23 strength check to break. The grappling hook, thrown weapon within a ranging area of 10 feet. Objects in ample places to hook a AC of 5 feet. So they just count it as a thrown weapon. Okay, so yeah. Escape artist still has the same connotation, but it's in the skill itself. And the only reason why I'm going over these two versions, because these are the two versions I'm the most familiar with. Rope, the DC of the escape artist is equal to the binder's CMB bonus, combat maneuver bonus plus 20. So it's effectively the combat maneuver defense of the creature plus 10, if you also want to look at it that way. Not necessarily the best option or the right option. Hey, Oberawesome, didn't even notice that you were in here for a moment there. It's my fault. Just noticed it. Why is my chat appearance not showing timestamps? There we go. Well, yeah, we're just discussing the differences between these. But yeah. So now it's just assumed that a character can make a knot really easily. Kind of just removing some of the... I would say that Pathfinder 1E kind of removes just some of the bloat that's in 3.5, because 3.5 has a lot of bloat. Mainly in the skills section, there's a lot of bloat. As well as... we'll go ahead and just go to the classes, and we'll just go to a class that both of these games have. We'll go to the Barbarian, because that's the easiest one to kind of get into. We'll look at the skills, and we have the same thing as 4+ int mod. The difference is that there's no of this ×4 multiplier starting at first level, because skills work differently. Instead of being a class, you just get a +3 bonus if it's a class skill. Which does technically mean that a character in Pathfinder 1E for skills is slightly stronger than a character in 3.5. Because if it's not a class skill, a cross-class skill takes 2 skill ranks to level up into 1, if I remember correctly. Well, thank you for the follow. But as you can see, like, the fighter from both of these editions kind of look very similar. Warlock for the win. Yeah, sadly, Warlock doesn't exist in either 3.5 or technically in Pathfinder First Edition. I don't even think technically it doesn't work. It doesn't exist in Yeah, it doesn't exist. It also doesn't exist in Pathfinder 2nd Edition or Starfinder 2nd Edition. And the Warlock didn't become a class until 4th Edition. There may have been more... The Warlock may have been introduced as a splat book in 3.5, but the flavor of Warlock, the theme of Warlock, meaning you worship or you have a patron that gave you your powers, does exist in Pathfinder 1.8. It's the Witch. The Witch has that kind of like conduit of otherworldly power vibe going for it. Like it's got patrons and all that other stuff. Instead, it's just manifested differently. Instead of casting Eldritch Blast all day, Witch or Lich, Witch, not Lich. Witch with a witch whiskey, not Lich Lima. This one. But yeah. Technically, the Witch is kind of more associated with like the planes, I think. More. What's Witch do? Witch is their primary function is a spellcaster, but their special ability is known as the Hex. Hexes are supernatural abilities that allow you to do magical tricks infinite number of times per day, and many of them can do many things. There's hexes that allow you to do a lot of these things, and many of these you can pick up at first level. But that's kind of the thing about which falls into this weird role where it's a D6 hit die class, which means it's got very squishy hit points, but it's kind of in a midline rather than a backline, which usually spellcasters kind of fall under, is kind of a backline situation. But they're more of a midline because many of their hexes only have a range of 30 feet. So at minimum, you're maybe 30 feet away from your fighter who's up in melee, or you're 30 feet away from the monster, which isn't always a good thing, especially if you're fighting something that's like colossal sized or bigger. Well, a bigger creature. But no, they witches are kind of more associated with like the Fae, but they can get their they can get their powers or their familiar, which is where their patron comes from, which the patron gives them, to kind of keep an eye on them. It's kind of how it manifests. So yeah. Witches are level 9 spellcasters with access to a supernatural ability that they can use pretty much every day and don't have to worry about. It's kind of like their cantrips. They also get cantrips, but witches don't gain a lot of damage dealing spells. Yeah. Many would say that the most powerful hex, one of, if not the most powerful hex in the witch's arsenal, is known as Evil Eye. Only because it does one of 3 things. Well, it does one of 5 things, which is really powerful, which is it's one of the few hexes that gives access to a easy to use ability that even on a save still does something. And that is it gives at lower levels, it's a -2 penalty on one of these 5 things, and usually you'll either be using it on AC or attack rolls. Sometimes you'll even use it on saving throws. So you'll usually end up using it for these 3 things. They're very rarely to use it on ability checks or skill checks, depending on what you're doing. And at 8th level, it increases to 8 to 9 Really powerful. No, it's fine. But this is like one of those things that Witch can do. There's other things in here, like you can have flight for a number of minutes per day. You can actually give your, and since PF1 doesn't have advantage, you can give an advantage-like ability where you can give somebody the ability to reroll a D20 check once per round. It only lasts for a round, but there are ways to increase that. Technically, you can get some free healing out of this. It only can be used 1 creature per time. Actually, you can use this quite often. But yeah, the witch is kind of like that I don't say it's more powerful than any other class, but since it gets access to 9th level spells, like it gets access to 9th level spells at 17th level, it's probably one of the stronger classes because it just gets access to 9th level spells, and the 9th level spell witch list isn't really that, is actually kind of powerful. It's the same thing as saying that, like, but there is no charisma caster for the witch spell list. There's also no charisma caster for any of the other. The only 9th level spellcasting classes that exist that have different spell lists are cleric, druid, wizard, witch, and psychic. I believe those are the only ones that are 9th level that get access to very specific spells. So we'll also go to few more things that are different between. The main differences are Pathfinder tried to make sure that if you decide to go 20 levels into a class, you got something each level. If we go to the druid, I think the druid is the worst example because the druid pretty much got something every level. So there really wasn't like anything that needed to be done for this one. I don't know if there really was a nerf or anything like that. I literally think the only thing is just a cleanup was for the druid. There's no like... Oh, there is a slight nerf. I just noticed the nerf. I could say that this is technically a slight nerf because you only go up to 4th level here. So it is technically a nerf to an extent. It's a nerf, but it's not fully a nerf, but it is a nerf. It's a nerf to the early level spells up to this level, but it's up to 5th level, I want to say. Yeah, to 5th level, which is that one, which is technically a nerf. Technically. But I mean, that's the only thing that's really been nerfed here. I don't really know. Well, the buff would be probably wild shape and getting more abilities. Like this one, trackless step, which I think exists, woodland stride, nature sense, resist nature's lure. Like there were some extra things that were put in to try to negate the loss of like early level spell slots. But I don't really know what else there was. Cleric got a pretty big nerf too. It looks like that actually wizard, like they really just standardized it to where wizard got the same type of spell slots as the other ones. I don't know why cleric and druid got more spell slots. I don't know why cleric and druid got more spell slots. Yeah, cleric and druid got more overall spell slots than the wizard did. Did wizard get an extra spell slot based off of their chosen specialization? Or am I incorrect? Yeah, one additional spell. So technically the wizard got the same amount minus one minus an extra cantrip at first at later levels. So technically the cleric has the most spell casting capability, but this cleric spell list isn't really that high or like that great, I'm gonna say. I could be wrong, but I mean, monk pretty much got something every level, which was one of those classes that did get something. Fighter got a bonus feat, got something, I think, pretty much every level. I'd have to look up the character. I don't know if the leveling up rules are in the D20 PFSRD or not. Is there anything about leveling up? I need a level up chart. I need experience. Where's experience? Where's experience in this darn thing? Because I can never remember where it's located. Because it's not in an easily accessible location. That's the problem I have with it. Building characters. Not there. Classes? No. Damn it. I keep seeing something pop up on my screen on the right-hand side. I don't know why I keep seeing it. I don't know if it's probably in here. Multiplying. I don't really see it. Is it under the core mechanics and I'm just missing it? You know what? Let's... Experience points. So, yeah, this is the experience points list. And if you notice, you get a feat at first and third level and then every 3 levels thereafter. So, Pathfinder characters are in general... I have to actually go to rules or rulebook. Character advancement. In general, they get the same amount of ability score increases, but they get 3 extra feats. So... Pathfinder First Edition just kind of gave us more feats. And then... Oh, is it you can only have 2 ranks and then it goes up by half a rank every level? So you get an 11.5, which doesn't really do anything, I guess. Yeah, I don't really like this system that much, only because I don't like the whole cross skill thing, because it feels kind of bad, to be honest. And technically, if we look at Pathfinder First Edition, you'll notice that it takes a lot more experience to get to max level. Compared to 3.5. But that's because in 3.5, experience was a resource. XP was used for crafting. In order to craft magic items, you had to use experience. So instead, they just literally made the values larger to compensate for that problem. But also quests just give a lot more experience anyway. And if you notice, it's literally like, in order to get to the next level, it's literally just your level times 1,000 added on to the previous level. I don't think experience reset on this. I don't think it did. I'd have to actually go find like the player's handbook and actually look it up. But I don't think experience actually, like, I don't think experience literally like pulled itself away from the player when you leveled up. But experience was like very important for crafting magic items. I don't know if it's actually in I don't know if it's in this I don't know if creating magic items. Yeah, creating magic items required the cost of experience, if I remember correctly. I don't know where the yeah. So as you can see, like, it requires experience to craft potions and such, which technically could mean that if you had a character that was crafting magic items all the time, they would be getting less experience and they would be leveling up slower. Leveling up at different paces was kind of like the norm back in, like, oh my god, back in like first edition. Each class had a separate chart that you had to level up by, and then in second edition and third edition, second edition I think it was the same way. In third edition, it made the experience table I think the same. Might have been AD&D 2. I don't know. I haven't really played them, but yeah. So but yeah, so that's how things usually go. Oh, I'm seeing the top of the chat move. That's what I'm seeing. But yeah, so that's how, like, experience points were kind of like incorporated, and why the chart is so much lower. But in a sense, Pathfinder First Edition just got rid of that. Uses medium as kind of like the default, and it's equal to medium is kind of just equal to your level times, well, it's somewhat your level times 1,000, but it's not, it's the level you want to get to times 1,000, but it's not necessary. That's not necessarily the same case. So I don't really know what the differences is. I mean, going on fast track, you can just see that there's a whole there's a list of it all, and it's always different when it comes to all of this. So that's mainly just the big differences between the two. If I actually go to the crafting rules in rules or rulebook, magic items. Let me find it. Damaging, magic item descriptions, magic armor. Yeah. There's a whole, I believe there's a table in here somewhere that has the whole list of all of this broken down in here somewhere. Hang on, I'm looking for it. First items. Shoot, magic item creation. There it is. So as you can see, it has pretty much the same thing here, except it's not broken down by like armor, shield, weapon, potion. It's broken down by like what each effect is. Such as it gives the one for like ability bonus squared multiplied by 1,000. Not uncommon. Excuse me. Oh my god. I've been in a little bit of pain today, so I was debating if I was actually going to cancel stream because I was in a little bit of pain, but I wanted to go ahead and do this. But yeah. So it's actually, the table's also right here. The same table's here. So this table and this table are the exact same, but there is no this table. I don't think that table exists. No, it does not. So experience was taken out of Pathfinder First Edition as like a crafting component, which is also why a lot of people ban crafting, because the only thing that required for crafting is now it just requires money and time, which if you have the money, you can technically get a lot of magic items earlier than intended, especially if you go based off of the intended wealth by level. If we go to give me one moment. I think we gotta go to rules, and we gotta go to the dungeon master. I think we gotta just go to the dungeon masters or game master section. Is it in here? I'm wondering if there's one that states starting beyond first. Oh, it's right here. So this is the character wealth by level. So experience points. So as you can see, total equipment value. If you notice, the equipment value in Pathfinder's higher than in this. And first levels again also by class, so that they didn't really need to put that in here. And it didn't give you like a sense of what the average party level is supposed to be. But this is the table that a lot of people will use if you're trying to get above first level. If you notice, the wealth by level is just round numbers here, and it's different. I don't really know what the math is here comparatively. It looks like it's literally just about the same as the amount of experience you're going to have. But this is including wealth by level of not crafting items. This is buying items specifically right out of the gate. This one is assuming you might be crafting items. One character might be crafting items, I'm assuming. Because crafting again wasn't like that bad. There's also something else that should be noted, and that is mainly this chart right here. This chart is actually kind of crazy. Mainly for this one and this one, I think. Actually, I think this one's the same. I think this is the same. But I think if we go, I think we got to go to the Unchained rules for this one to actually see this one right. So if we go to rules, we need to go to the Unchained, Pathfinder Unchained, fractional base bonuses. So, if you notice, base attack bonus for a D6, which is the same thing for their poor. If you notice, it goes up to +10. So characters, I would say characters in general between 3.5 and first edition are slightly more powerful. Some classes got nerfed, some classes got buffed. Most classes got buffed. There were only like a few classes that got nerfed. Cleric and Druid were clearly some of the classes that got nerfed. In the sense of their spellcasting. Their spellcasting got nerfed. Mainly because, like, all this. But they gained the access to use cantrips without they got access to using cantrips without losing the spell. So, like, they got orisons, which allowed them to cast 0-level spells an infinite number of times. As well, there are other magic items that I don't know if the magic items exist. It might. Let's see. The Pearls of Power are wondrous item, and they exist. So they do exist. Many of the magic items from this list here, this list exist in Pathfinder First Edition. Pretty much anything that's in this section for like the base classes and the prestige classes all exist in Pathfinder First Edition somewhere. Blackguard, I don't remember where that came from. Oh, wait, Blackguard is literally just Blackguard is their Hell Knight, except it's a little bit different. Because I don't think the Hell Knights actually exist. No, Hell Knight does not exist. I don't even think Hell Knight really existed as a core rulebook class, did it? Is Hell Knight a core rulebook class? No, it's from the Adventurer's Guide and Inner Sea World Guide, so it's not a core rulebook class. I'd have to actually pull out my core rulebook to see what the main classes are. I think Aldori's Sword Lord is no, it's not. Arcane Archer is. Core rulebook. Arcane Trickster. So Archmage exists in the D20 PFSRD. Or the D20 SRD. I don't know what book this came from. That's about to start. Yeah, I do not know what book this came from. What does High Arcana do? It does require 15 ranks in a specific skill, which would technically be 12 ranks in a skill of some kind. Knowledge of 5th level or higher spells from at least 5 schools. So this was literally the prestige class you went into if you were a wizard. Funny how it gives you craft alchemy as a craft skill, when I think wizard just gives you craft as a skill. Yeah, craft int. So the Archmage just gives you that. That's funny. The Dragon Disciple Duelist, the Dwarven Defender is... I don't think exists in this. Eldritch Knight. I don't think Hierophant. So, Assassin, that exists. So the Blackguard, the Horizon Walker, I think was actually introduced at a different time. Yeah, the Horizon Walker was introduced at a different time. Lore Master, that exists. It was also known as the Pathfinder. Pathfinder Savant, or Pathfinder Field Agent, Paladin Verdana, Pathfinder Chronicler. I think the Chronicler was the one that was in the core rulebook. It is. Kind of replaced some of these. Mystic Theurge exists, Shadow Dancer, Thaumaturgus. Huh. Some of these prestige classes, I'm not 100% certain what the equivalent would be. These NPC classes exist. Paladin effectively got changed. Hang on. Excuse me. I had to sneeze. So, Paladin's major change was the Divine Bond that they gained at 4th level. Or 5th level. I think it's 5th level. Divine Bond at 5th level. It did not need to be a mount, which is the only thing. Special mount, which was the main. Like, Paladin was meant to be the Knight in Shining Armor in 3.5. So, like, that is what the Paladin was. As well, the Paladin got access to something else besides just being able to remove diseases. They got access to mercies, which allowed them to remove other conditions besides just disease. And they got it a lot earlier. Divine Grace is always... Paladins, I would say, are probably the best defensive class. Oh, also spellcasting was changed. Pathfinders, Paladins have to use Wisdom in 3.5. Well, everything else revolved around Charisma. Like Divine Grace was based around Charisma. Yeah, Charisma bonus. Smite Evil was based around Charisma. And then spells were based off of Wisdom, which is funny because 5th edition changed it to Charisma. But PF1E changed spells to Charisma because the Paladin was already a mad class, and this just made it even more mad because you needed a minimum of 14, and you needed a minimum of a 14, but you also needed a minimum of 12 in Charisma, but you also were probably using Strength because you can wear heavy armor, so you need Strength so you could wear heavy armor, so it became much more difficult to play a Paladin. Also, the Code of Conduct exists. Here's the Code of Conduct, which is why many people don't like playing Paladins, or many people don't like a Paladin in general, and the same Code of Conduct exists here. Paladins got changed in Pathfinder 1st edition. Mainly, Paladins got changed so that they could change how they got what their Code of Conduct meant. This is the generic Code of Conduct that anybody can use if they don't make up their own, like, Paladin conduct that's based around, like, specific things. And you know, there's always this option here, and then there's this thing. This one doesn't really go into most of it. They actually give like some roleplay opportunity that if like they're in an alliance, like with evil associates, they should do this. And we'll be back, and I'll finish this thought when we're back. Okay, and break is done. We are back. What was I talking about? Oh, right. Reason why Paladin had got such the bad rap that it did is probably dictated more on I'm probably like 2nd edition or 1st edition, but I'm not 100% certain. But this is the reason why Paladins were such a party pooper to play with, and it's because of the code of conduct. So let's see here. While it's the Shemanian of any good or neutral element, Kaladin will never knowingly associate with evil characters, nor will she continue to associate with character who constantly offends her moral code. So, like, that's the thing. Is like, this is kind of where the thing of like, so this effectively gave the player a reason to effectively needed to be knocked unconscious, because there was also this like act with honor, not lying, not cheating, or not using poisons and so forth. Help those in need, preferably do not use the help for evil or chaotic ends, and punish those who harm or threaten innocents, which is the problem that a lot of like parties revolved around, is that if somebody wanted to play a paladin, it effectively was, oh, you wanted to be an asshole but not be an asshole at the same time. You wanted to play a character that was so like, and it's like the whole thing of like, this is why paladins end up being lawful stupid, is because you had to effectively like follow this strict set of rules in order to like do anything. And it's here as well. Like, it's right here. It's the same thing. So paladins still fall into this problem, but Paizo tried to relieve some of this problem by giving specific deities, not all deities, but deities that a paladin could worship, different codes of conduct that they could use in place so that they could instead play with a more nuanced character, a character that had a much better way of doing things. Like, there's Erastil's code, which is the god of the hunt. So, and he's a lawful good, so a paladin was able to worship them. Do note, Pathfinder 1E doesn't technically specifically state that they need to, but on Golarion, because it's the setting, a paladin has to worship a deity, at least for society play specifically. So there is that. So yeah, this is kind of like, this one's all about community, rather than anything else, which is a big difference. And it gives you something more closely to like go up against. And then there's the one deity that a lot of people are like, oh, where's the paladin deity? And I'm like, well, there are a few, but the main paladin deity that people are probably associating with is Iomade. If I can find her, she's here. I know I skipped her. Iomade, which is like, she has a longsword as her favorite weapon. So this is literally the one deity that like a lot of people play, and this is the rule. It's all about like not backing down from like battle and all that against your opponents, you know. And then you've got Sarenrae, which is let's see here. Sarenrae, which is the next one, which can be worshipped by a paladin, has things like protecting allies with your life, like a lot more things that are like in general just good acts, good deeds. So there's all that. I don't think there's anything in here about undead, but yeah. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff like that, which is nice. There was an issue early on. So here's the thing. If we go to deities and we go to, so let's look at this. So clerics have to worship a deity, or if not, they need to worship a deity. So there's Pharasma, and Pharasma has a bit of a problem. So Pharasma is the goddess of death. Pharasma dislikes undead. Pharasma is 100% against the action of creating undead, making undead, and all that other stuff. Well, she has the death domain. Here's the issue with the death domain, is that it's been here since the Pathfinder core rulebook. Here's the problem. The 3rd level, animate dead. 6th level, create undead. 8th level, create greater undead. Why are these here? So they had to change it, of course, because you can't really worship Pharasma and be going around creating undead with the death domain. So effectively, you had dead 3rd, 6th, and 8th level spells up from the domain, which wasn't big of a deal, but it was changed to be more friendly, appropriate, Pharasma friendly death domain. So, yeah. Yeah, and there was this one that you could use as well from Champions of Balance. She didn't have that one, but yeah, there's some cool things in here that of all that, but I gotten kind of sidetracked. So Cleric got changed a little bit, mainly the spells got changed. Clerics got access to something else known as Channel Energy, which kind of changed them from the usual role of, like, they got Turn or Rebuke Undead, which was control or what was it, controlling undead or Turn or Rebuke? Can turn or destroy undead. An evil cleric could instead rebuke and command such creature. I don't know what rebuke did. Also changed what they can do that. Channel Energy was the difference. Channel Energy was Paizo's answer to this kind of lackluster ability. Instead, now any character that had access to Channel Energy could get access to Turn or Command Undead, which were feats. They turned them into feats. I don't even know. +2 religion bonus on turning undead against undead? You didn't roll a die. They rolled against a DC. Didn't they? Any cleric or arsenal line has the power to affect undead creatures by channeling power through the faithless deity. See, turn or rebuke undead. Oh. Good clerics and paladins drive off or destroy undead. Oh. I see. Causes them to cower. Command, dispel, bolster. Interesting. So did you roll a d20? It's a charisma check. Yeah, now it says just a DC. Equal to 10 to that. I think it's a little bit better to be a DC anyway. But yeah, channel positive energy could harm undead or heal living, and then channel negative energy could heal undead or harm living. You had to pick which one you did. Domains kind of stayed the same. So we did get access to domains, deity domains, and domain spells. We still get access to domains. The main difference you'll notice is if we go to the equipment list, you'll notice that clerics proficient with all simple weapons and all types of armor, and with shields, except tower shields. You'll notice there's no heavy armor for clerics in 3.5, or Pathfinder 1st Edition. They also get access to... Cleric chooses the war domain, receives the weapon focus feat related to his deity's favorite weapon. He also receives the appropriate martial weapon proficiency feat as a bonus feat. This weapon falls into this category. Do note that the war domain ability changed to just be all clerics get access to proficiency with the favorite weapon of their deity. They do not get weapon focus, though. That you still have to pick up as a feat. So that was different. The auras are the same. The spells are the same, effectively. Channel Energy is still a charisma-based ability. Yeah, this one's still a charisma-based ability. So these two are still charisma-based. I think a cleric only gets access to one bonus language now. No, cleric, Celestial, Abyssal, and Infernal. So I think it's still Celestial, Abyssal, and Infernal, which is nice. And then, of course, this one is still the same over the others. A cleric cannot cast spells of an alignment opposing her own or her deities, which means if you played a true neutral character and you worship a neutral good deity, you cannot cast any evil spells. Cleric technically must worship a deity in Golarion, but that's besides the point. But yeah, evil cleric or someone who worships an evil deity can't convert prepared spells to cure spells, but instead converts them to inflict. It's the same thing for this one. And this is dictated by their channel energy choice as well. So yeah, that's kind of the changes between cleric and this. So there's also a major difference between the one that technically got, I would say, got buffed the most is technically Sorcerer. So Sorcerer had this problem where it was literally better to just play a Sorcerer than it was to play a Wizard. Mainly because also, if you notice, the Sorcerer got +10 to that, and I think the Wizard did too. Yeah, for some odd reason, the chart is different than it is here. Here it's actually right, but the chart is different. But if you notice, it's 6 spells that they can cast per day. That did not change, as you can see. But if you notice, a Sorcerer got way more abilities. They lost the summon familiar ability. They also gain a new thing. They got the skew materials for free in place of that. And then they get bloodline powers, and then they get all this stuff, which I think is the exact same. It is. So this is the exact same, but they actually gain one more of the 1st through 9th level. So they actually get more spells known than you would expect. They do not need a familiar. Technically, you can get a familiar if you choose the default option for Sorcerer, which is known as the Arcane Bloodline. Gives you the Arcane Bond feature of the Wizard, but allows you to pick a familiar or an Arcane Bond. I don't think, yeah, technically there was like no reason to not, for a Wizard to not use Summon Familiar. And it worked the exact same way. So, and technically the familiar was changed as well. So instead, the Wizard was the one that gained access to the familiar by default. They gained Arcane Bond, which you could actually just not pick a familiar either. I don't really know if the familiar was really required. So, like, once you technically regained, yeah, so they changed it to where it's a much higher gold cost if you lose a familiar. I think you have to actually go to a different list. You have to go to a different section for familiar. But yeah, familiars were... Everything changed from XP cost to gold cost, like a lot more gold cost, because gold was the only resource that you had. It literally meant that if your familiar died, there really was no point. So there really wasn't a point of like summoning your familiar, because I don't think familiars gave you anything. I think they did. They gave you something special. They did give you something special. But there really was no point in summoning a familiar, because if they died, it was terrible. I mean, the only thing I would say is that familiars in here, like, are a little bit different because all that. The only issue is that familiar dies, a wizard has to make a concentration check in order to cast spells, I believe. If a bonded object... the bonded object allows them to cast an additional spell or to serve as a magic item. It gave more information on all that, but I believe I believe the familiar dies as well, you have to roll a concentration check in order to try to cast the spell. No, actually, I guess it's just the bonded object. Yeah. Yeah. So technically Wizard got a little bit of a buff. Wizard got a buff in the sense of the opposition school. So instead you pick 2 opposition schools, which instead of being, if we go back to sorcerers and wizards and we clog that all the way down to specialization, you must give up 2 other schools of magic, which become prohibited schools, which means you can never cast spells from those schools ever without requiring a UMD check if you want to use magic items. This one just made them opposition schools, which means they instead just cost 2 spell slots to cast a spell, to prepare that spell. So a first level wizard who took enchantment and necromancy as their opposition schools would instead just need to prepare, if they wanted to prepare an enchantment spell, it would cost 2 spell slots compared to not being able to prepare them at all, but could still use things like wands and all that stuff. So yeah, 2 spell slots of that level to prepare the spell. So it's never a bad idea to take a specialization. Being a universalist can help, but being a universalist isn't always the best option. Ugh. Excuse me. They gain Scribe Scroll as a bonus feat. Usually this is replaced by something else if your GM does not allow crafting. There's bonus feats, which I think, yeah, gain the same things. Required to be item creation, meta magic, or spell mastery. This one is the same thing as meta magic, item mastery, spell mastery. Not limited. These bonuses feats are in addition to the feats. The wizard is not limited to the categories of item creation, item mastery, spell feats when choosing those feats. It's just these. So yeah. I don't really think there's really much. Oh, there's also these favorite class bonuses that were different. Yeah, there's also this section in arcane spells and armor, requiring you to make a concentration check. You notice concentration is a skill. It is not a skill in Pathfinder First Edition. You do not put ranks into this. This is automatically something that any spellcaster automatically gets access to. It's in the magic section. Casting spells. Concentration, which is equal to your caster level. In order to make a concentration check, is equal to your caster level plus the casting stat of your choice, or of the class you were trying to use it. So it's a D20 plus caster level plus ability score modifier. I think a concentration check is con based, so it's skill ranks plus con, which means technically you could get it up to 23. This technically can get higher than 23. I think like by the end game it's like 26. This can get up to even higher than that, depending on magic items. So yeah, 10 plus damage dealt. This is the spell level gets added to a lot of these. So there's that. So 10 plus damage dealt plus the level of the spell. Continuous damage 10 plus half damage dealt plus the spell level you're trying to cast. Mainly because since it's not a skill anymore, they had to kind of adjust how the DCs work. And there's also the casting defensively. Was there a casting defensively option? Mm. Hmm. Hmm. Oh, there it is. So it's a concentration check. So it's in the special section, which is the DC of this check is 15 plus the spell's level. If the casting spell or using a spell like ability defensively, the concentration check succeeds. You may attempt the action normally without provoking an attack opportunity. Successful concentration check still doesn't allow you to take a 10 on another check. If you were in a stressful situation, you must make the check normally. If the concentration check fails, the fail relied action and also automatically fails, which means you lose the spell. Here it's the same, but casting benefit is 15 plus double spell level. So meaning, and since technically concentration is not a skill, it's not a attack action, it's a skill. A natural 1, you need a plus. So in order to cast cantrips, you need a plus 14. In order to cast first level spells, you need a plus 16, and then just add 2 from then on. So that you can actually do it correctly. So 16, 18, 20, 22, all the way up to 9th level spells, which is a DC of 33. So you need a minimum of a plus 32 in order to cast 9th level spells defensively without provoking an attack of opportunity. So that's kind of how spells different. Which technically means that the 15 plus spell level, it only goes up to 24. So as long as you didn't have a negative constitution score, you could cast 9th level spells defensively without issue. Do note that combat casting does technically increase the concentration check by plus 4. So combat casting is a thing. Combat casting still exists. So combat casting is still a thing, and it is a plus 4 still, so it is very useful in specific situations. So combat casting exists, and it's the same thing. Plus 4 on concentration checks when defensive or while you are grappled. I think combat casting is literally just a plus 4 combat casting. I think it's just for, yeah, it's the same. It's the literally exact same thing, except it's also like while grappled, because I don't think you can cast a spell while pinned in Pathfinder. I could be wrong. Conditions. The pinned condition is what we're looking for. Pinned. A pinned character who attempts to cast a spell or use a spell-like ability must make a concentration check or lose the spell. Can we cast spells while grappled as well? Grapple creature taking minus 2 on the in addition, a grapple creature can take no action. Grapple creature who attempts to cast a spell use spell like must make a concentration check. 10 DC grappler CMD plus spell level C concentration or lose the spell. Grappled or pinned. Pinned creatures. Okay, so this is the difference. So let's go back. So a grappled creature. Hang on, where is it? There was something in here that I was reading, and it's a grappled creature cannot cast a spell with. You can grappling. Engage in wrestling or some other grappled creature can undertake only a limited number of actions. He has no threat squares, loose dexterity bonus, if any, against opponents he is a grappling. And there's the pinned condition. Held in place, not helpless, in a grapple. Grapple. Grappling if you're grappled. Casting a spell. So while grappled and even while pinned, providing its casting time is no more than one action, and it has no somatic components, you can cast the spell. I think pinned is the same way. Pinned. Held immobile, not helpless, but in a grapple. I mean, so that's literally the exact same. While in here, grappled or pinned, as long as it doesn't have, that's the same thing, but it's 10 plus grappler CMD. So it's effectively the grappler's CMD. Well, actually, 10 plus the grappler's CMB, which is important, plus the level of the spell you're trying to cast, which is nice. I think that's the same way on the concentration check. Actually, no, it's not. It's different. It's just a DC 20. You still can't cast spells without a somatic component. Pinned creatures cannot cast spells that do not have a somatic component. So if you're pinned, you can't cast a spell with a somatic component. If you're grappled, you can. It's just very weird. But you can do that. But you can do that. In Pathfinder 1st Edition. Grappling is still like a whole convoluted mess. And I've been attempted. I haven't really attempted to try to like fix it. Or make it any better. Or anything like that. So we'll see. Oh. But yeah, combat casting works slightly different. Oh, apparently I had Arcane Trickster up there. We can get rid of that. We can get rid of that. And we can get rid of that. And that. So I think under the rules, there's something known as tying somebody up, which I think is I think it's in the conditions. I think if you're pinned, have the chance of tying somebody up. Is there a tied up condition? No. So a pinned creature cannot move and denied. A pinned creature also takes a -4 penalty to his armor's class. A pinned creature is limited in action it can take. A pinned creature, only attempt to free itself usually through a combat maneuver check or escape artist check. A pinned creature can take verbal and mental actions. Cannot cast any spells requiring a somatic or material component. A pinned creature who attempts to cast a spell or use a spell-like ability must make a concentration check or lose the spell. Pinned is a more severe version of grapple, and their effects do not stack. So there's that. I think it's in the grapple rules, which is in combat, how combat works. And then we got to go to grapple. Grapple. Okay, we get to the fun part, which is we get to read the grappling rules, which is very convoluted and complex. Yeah. If your target is, if you have a target pinned, otherwise restrained or unconscious, you can you can tie them up. It is equal to 20 plus your combat maneuver bonus instead of your combat maneuver defense. The rope does not need to make a check every round to maintain the pin. If you're grappling the target, you can attempt to do the same thing with a -10 penalty. The DC to escape the binds is 20 plus the target's CMB. The target cannot escape the bonds, even with the natural 20 on the check. So yeah. So if the DC is higher than 20 plus the target's CMB, cool. But we'll see. But yeah, that's pretty much like grappling is also like very complex, very convoluted, and very much if you don't use it, you forget it. So there is that. Excuse me. And the grappling rules were the same thing in this one. If we go to combat and we go to grapple, it's complex. Where's the combat maneuvers? Are they even in here? I don't even know if combat maneuvers are in here. Oh, there they are. Grapple. Yeah, starting a grapple. Grappling consequences. If you're grappling, if you're the grappler, if you're pinned. Yeah, there's this is the reason why a lot of people just don't grapple people, because it's oh my god. So it's just convoluted, complex, and very annoying. There were some feats that I believe were just taken out. Some feats in 3.5 from 3.0 were taken out. There was a feat known as ambidextrous, which you had to take in order to take two-weapon fighting. They just got rid of that because there was really no point in having a feat like that. Many of these feats, some of these feats did not make it into next, because Investigator did not make it because it's for gather information and search checks, which don't exist anymore. They are instead replaced by Persuasive, and Investigator gave us a +2 bonus to search, and alertness, or how those functioned instead. Let's see here. I think there's... Yeah, track also doesn't exist because it's just track is... I don't know why this is a feat. This feat was lumped into Spellcraft's like normal way of doing things, or in Survival's normal way of doing things. Like, what was the survival skill even used for? Was it just gathering? See the track, like follow tracks. Like, you had to have the track feat in order to follow tracks. So why did it exist in here? Because like that's the problem, is that does not allow you to follow difficult tracks unless you are a ranger or have the track feat. So like there was no point. So the track feat was effectively just lumped into survival in Pathfinder First Edition. Like there's these, but then there's following tracks, which is just something that you can do in survival checks. I mean, Rangers got the ability to track opponents, which effectively just gave them track as a bonus feat. Rangers in Pathfinder First Edition no longer got track as a bonus feat. They instead just got let me find Ranger. They instead got they didn't get track until track. They got track, but it's different. They instead get a half their level's minimum 1 to survival checks made to follow tracks. So Rangers became the de facto tracking, but other classes got access to track. Like there's Slayer, they got access to track. Slayer is also good at tracking. They get track. Hunter, I believe, also gets track. I think they get it one level later though. Yeah, Hunters get track. And then I don't think Druids got it. No, Druids did not get it. I think that's it. I think there was a Barbarian archetype that gave you track, but track is one of those skills that like you don't need it until you actually need it kind of situation. Ranger still got favorite enemy. The favorite enemy list is pretty much the exact same. I think it's the exact same because I don't think any of so they just did this because humanoid had a wide variety of subtypes. If you wanted to be good against giants, you had to pick humanoid giant. Actually, I just realized that. So I just realized this. Giants were their own type in 3.5. So giants were their own type, but Pathfinder lumped them in with the humanoid type. So giants actually got a big nerf, because that means they were affected by Charm Person and all that. While normally, I don't think Charm Person worked. Charm Person. One humanoid creature which giants were not a humanoid creature. So giants actually could fail charm person now because they're considered humanoid. But there was always charm monster and dominate monster. But that means that technically you can dominate a giant earlier because of dominate person. So there was dominate person, dominate, which is the 4th level version. Yeah, 5th level, 5th level version, which does technically make it stronger, makes this spell stronger because giants are now considered humanoids and not just giants. I did not know this, by the way. I was unaware that 5th edition was still using 3.5's way of classifying giants. I had thought that giants were still in the subcategory of humanoid early on, and they just changed them to giants to get rid of them. But no, they're actually considered humanoid giants. So yeah. So technically the Ranger has the exact same amount, except the Ranger actually gets more in Pathfinder 1st edition because of this category right here. But yeah. Oh, also technically, yeah, you can't pick elemental. You have to actually pick which type of elemental. So actually there's, because there's no elemental subtype here, you have to pick one of the outsider. Technically, I would probably allow it to where you could pick outsider elemental as an option, because elemental exists here. Yeah. So there's also one other thing that was changed. Undead. Undead, which is something. Oh, it actually got nerfed heavily in Pathfinder 1st edition. So apparently, I didn't know this. Apparently, Undead had 12-sided hit dice. That's really strong, but also had half equal to a wizard goodwill saves, and had that. But they had no con score. Most of this is the same. Except for one teensy tiny little thing. Wait, undead were just not subject to critical hits by default? Weren't they also not subject to... I thought they were also not subject to precision damage, like sneak attack. Was I wrong? I thought they were immune to sneak attack. I thought undead were immune to sneak attack. Am I wrong in that assumption? Let me go look at the skeleton. Let's look at the skeleton. Weren't skeletons like immune to sneak attacks or something shit like that? Damage reduction. Guess not. I guess I was incorrect. I remember something specifically stating that undead were immune to critical hits or immune to sneak attack, like precision damage. But I can't remember where I remember that specific thing. Oh, wait, no. Undead were turned to no longer be immune to critical hits. It was constructs that were immune to... Constructs were immune to critical hits. And precision damage. Right? Not subject to critical hits, not only the damage, ability, exhaustion, or energy. Was I wrong again? I thought there was a weird thing that, because there was this whole thing of like rogues were pretty much useless against specific targets. Is it in sneak attack specifically? That I'm just sneak attack. A rogue can success sneak attack only living creatures with discernible anatomy. Undead, constructs, oozes, plants, and incorporeal creatures lack vital areas to attack. That's where I'm remembering this. They changed rogue. They buffed rogue effectively. Technically, they had to buff rogue twice because they had to do rogue unchained as well. So there's that. Sneak attack no longer has that specific thing in it. It just says it now counts as precision damage. And then creatures are just sometimes immune to precision damage. So undead constructs can now be precision damage, and plants, but oozes and incorporeal creatures were immune to precision damage. Usually, oozes because they didn't have any form of they didn't have any like discernible traits to like be snuck attack. Oozes are immune to not subject to critical hits or flanking, does not take additional damage from precision-based attacks such as sneak attack. So there's that. I think plants. Yeah, plants are not immune to sneak attack by default. And undead are not immune to sneak attack by default. They effectively got rid of that because many people just made a custom magic item that allowed rogues to sneak attack those creatures anyway. So there was really no point in not having it. So yeah. Trap finding was technically buffed for this. Let's see here. So trap finding allowed you to get a bonus on perception checks, and you're allowed to just disable magical traps. So yeah. They changed it where trap finding allowed you to disable magical traps. And they actually gave trap finding to like one other class. It's a hybrid class. Trap finding was something that like they gave at very rarely, which I noticed. But trap finding was still given to a lot of classes through archetypes, which were just changes to classes, which I think technically works like the variant class list. So yeah. Oh yeah, disable device included disable lock or open lock. And in the disable device list, it states that if it fails by 4 or less, you have failed the attempt. 5 or more, something goes wrong. Device is triggered. If you attempt any sort of sabotage, you think the device is disabled, but it still works normally. I think that just means you also jam the lock. Leave behind no trace if you're tampering. Add 5 to the DC. So yeah, you can now open locks. Now you just need a thieves toolkit in order to get rid of traps and all that. So you technically do need create a trap on it. Like rogues can disarm magical traps. A magic trap generally has a DC of 25 plus the level of spell used to create it. So isn't there like something that states that you need thieves tools, or you let you sabotage simple mechanical devices such as catapults, wagons, wheels, and doors? Disarming a trap or other device is made secretly so that you don't necessarily know whether you succeeded. A lot of GMs ignore that rule. I think it's the same way in this one. There's a lot of things that generally the GM is supposed to make secretly, such as disable device checks, perception checks, stealth checks. Yeah. Yeah, it's made secret so that you don't necessarily know whether you succeeded. So yeah, that's like the main thing that a lot of people forget, is that some of these checks are supposed to be made discreetly. But most of the time, the GM or DM will just allow the player to roll, and then they can the GM can determine if they succeeded or not by giving specific language. Because technically, a player is not supposed to know the DC to open something or to unlock something or to disable something kind of situation. So, yeah. But yeah. There's also a thing of like, I know a way of how to make a character have plus lot at first level to any skill, depending on the skill. I believe there's a way to get disable device to like plus 15 at first level. Let me think here. In order to do this, you would need to play a rogue. So first we play a rogue, we get a 20 in dex, and we put at least a skill rank in it. So that gives us a plus 8 by default. Well, plus 9. Gives us a plus 9 by default. We need to take the skill focus feat to get it to plus 12, because it's a plus skill focus gives a plus 3. And then we need to take a character. Well, I guess technically it would be a 14. So 14, I think, is the highest we can get it to, because trap finding gives us a plus 1 to disable device. Rogue level plus 1. 1 level of rogue gives us a plus 1. 5 plus 3. No, 9. It's 5 plus 3 plus 1. Because we got a skill rank. So that's 9. Plus 1 is 10. Plus 3 is 13. And then if we take a race that gives us plus 2, which there are races that do. I think Tiefling is the only one that gives us access to that. I think Tiefling's the only one. I don't think any other class really gives us access to that. It's the Tiefling. Tiefling. Bluff and stealth checks. Yeah, so we can get disable device and perception. Technically, we can't have this plus the 20. Oh, wait, yeah, we can. We can do it with this one. So, Daemon Spawn, or the Grim Spawn, gives us disable device with a plus 2 dex, which means we can automatically start off with a... We can actually do that. So, there is a way to do it, and you have to play this specific race to get it. So you can get a plus 15 at first level. That's first level. I know in many games, like if you're used to 5th edition, the most you can get is like a 17, which is a plus 3, plus proficiency is plus 2, so plus 5 is like the minimum for something like sleight of hand or your thieves tools check. So yeah, it's just numbers are bigger in Pathfinder First Edition compared to 5th edition, which doesn't always necessarily mean that both of them are worse, but I like numbers to be big and I like numbers to go up really high. So yeah, that's why I'm a big fan of some of this stuff. Interesting. Ugh, excuse me. Well, that's a not so powerful. Oh, right. Whoops. Deathwatch is a spell. I don't know if 3.5, because here's the thing. Like I'm going over like some of the differences, but there's also differences between races that got changed. Like if I just go to races and we go to human, you'll notice that human gets all of this, an extra 1 feat and 4 skill ranks, common plus any other language. If I go to core races and I go to human, human gets a buff in the sense of they get a +2 ability score improvement now to any score that they so wish. Dwarves got a buff. Most of this stuff changed to where they gave them a buff to... They gave them a +2 to a mental stat if they didn't already have a +2 to a mental stat. Or if they happen to be half-elves, they gave them the human and half-orcs actually got a major buff because they lost the +2, -2, -2 to be a +2 to any stat. And same with halflings, also got a +2 to charisma. So a lot of these got a bonus to mental stats, which is something that they're missing here. So everything got a bonus to a +2. Half-orcs were the main things. They got a major buff. They got a super buff, effectively. They got a much bigger buff. So, yeah. And I think we're going to go ahead and pretty much be done here for today. So I'm going to snooze, and we're just going to go ahead and find somebody to raid. Who is live? Ellie's live, and I don't get to raid Ellie that often because me and his schedule don't always line up. So it's actually really good. We're gonna go ahead and rate them today. So thank you guys for doing it, and I'll see you guys later.